The boarding area buzzed with the usual pre-flight chaos, travelers juggling coffees, phone calls, and luggage while a soft voice over the speakers announced final calls and gate changes. At gate 42A, flight 729 to New York was almost ready to board. The line for first class had begun to form, and among the passengers stood David Carter, a tall, well-dressed man in his early 40s. His calm presence and tailored Navy suit gave him an air of quiet confidence, the kind that made people instinctively step aside. But David wasn't just another first-class passenger. He was the founder and CEO of Falcon Air, one of the fastest-growing luxury airlines in the world. And yet, no one at the gate seemed to recognize him. David had learned long ago that blending in had its advantages. He enjoyed observing how people behaved, especially in places like airports where patience and character were truly tested. He stood quietly, holding his boarding pass, smiling politely at the gate agent when she announced boarding for first class. "Good afternoon, Mr. Carter," she said warmly, recognizing him from internal company memos. "Welcome aboard." David nodded. "Thank you, Claire. You're doing great work. Keep the line moving smoothly." She smiled, slightly startled that the CEO knew her name, and he stepped aside to let others board first. A few feet behind him, a woman in her late 30s, dressed in designer clothes and wearing oversized sunglasses, was loudly talking on her phone. Her name was Amanda Brooks, a corporate consultant from Chicago. She was used to getting her way. As soon as she heard first-class boarding, she rushed forward, cutting ahead of the small line. "Excuse me," the gate agent said politely. "We're boarding in order, ma'am." Amanda scoffed. "I'm in 1A first class. I have an important meeting in New York. I can't wait around." David watched silently, a faint, almost amused smile on his face. When he finally approached the jet bridge, Amanda was already halfway down, walking briskly. Inside the aircraft, the flight attendants greeted passengers with warm smiles. David stepped into the cabin, where the luxurious leather seats gleamed under soft golden lighting. He found his assigned seat, 1A, and was about to stow his bag when he stopped. Amanda Brooks was sitting there, legs crossed, phone still glued to her ear. She didn't even look up. Her designer handbag occupied half the seat next to her, and she had already started browsing the digital menu. David paused, double-checking his ticket. "Oh, no mistake. Excuse me, ma'am," he said gently. "I believe you're in my seat." Amanda barely looked up. "I don't think so." "This is 1A, yes," David said calmly, holding out his boarding pass, "and that's what my ticket says as well." Amanda gave a sharp laugh. "I think you're mistaken. Maybe you should check economy." The words hung in the air like a slap. The nearby passengers, mostly quiet business travelers, glanced up awkwardly. The flight attendant, Maria, immediately stepped in. "Ma'am," Maria said professionally, "may I see your boarding pass?" Amanda sighed, rolling her eyes, and handed it over with exaggerated impatience. Maria scanned it. 1B. "I'm sorry, Miss Brooks," she said. "Solomon sees 1B. This gentleman is in 1A. Amanda frowned. "That can't be right. I always book the window seat. I need it for my anxiety. You can switch him with someone else." David's expression didn't change. Calm, composed. "It's all right," he said quietly to Maria. "I can take any seat." Amanda smirked, interpreting his kindness as submission. "See, he doesn't mind." Maria hesitated. "Sir, it's fine," David assured her. Giving a small nod, he took the aisle seat, placed his laptop bag under the seat, and sat down without complaint. As the plane began to board the rest of the passengers, Amanda settled into the window seat, glancing occasionally at David, his expensive watch, his neatly pressed suit, his quiet demeanor. Something about him made her uneasy, but she brushed it off. A few minutes later, the captain's voice came over the intercom. "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Reynolds speaking. Welcome aboard Falcon Air Flight 729 in New York. We're expecting a smooth flight today." Amanda smiled. "Falcon Air, my favorite airline," she said out loud as if seeking agreement. David glanced sideways, politely smiling. "That's good to hear. I fly them all the time," she continued. "They're the best, except their staff sometimes. Customer service can be inconsistent." "Really?" David asked mildly. "Yes," she said, leaning back. "Some of them just don't know how to treat premium passengers. I once had to teach a flight attendant how to pour champagne properly." David chuckled softly. "That must have been educational. Someone has to set standards," she said proudly. Before he could respond, Maria returned with 2 glasses of sparkling water. "Here you go, Mr. Carter," she said respectfully. Amanda froze. "Carter," she turned toward him slowly. "Wait, your name is Carter," as in he nodded slightly, still smiling. "David Carter." Her expression changed instantly, the realization dawning like a cold light. David Carter, founder and CEO of Falcon Air. The color drained from her face. "Oh, my God," she stammered. I didn't realize, I didn't mean to." David simply looked at her, his eyes kind but unreadable. It's all right, Miss Brooks. Everyone makes mistakes. Maria quickly stepped back, uncomfortable with the tension. Amanda fumbled with her seatbelt, her earlier arrogance crumbling into awkward silence. After takeoff, the hum of the engines filled the cabin. The two sat quietly for a while until Amanda finally spoke again, her voice lower this time. Mr. Carter, I owe you an apology. I wasn't polite earlier. David looked up from his tablet where he was reviewing company reports. I appreciate that, he said, but really no harm done. No, it's just, she trailed off. I made an assumption. I shouldn't have. He studied her face not with judgment, but with understanding. We all do sometimes, he said. The important thing is recognizing it. She nodded slowly. You were incredibly kind. Most people would have made a scene. David smiled faintly. That's not my style. Amanda hesitated. You must think I'm awful. He shook his head. No, I think you were in a hurry like everyone else. The world teaches us to rush, not to notice who's standing beside us. She looked out the window, eyes glistening. That's painfully true. The cabin lights dimmed as lunch service began. The smell of warm bread and roasted chicken filled the air. Amanda hadn't touched her food. She was lost in thought. After a while, she said softly, you built this airline. Yes, he replied. Started with 3 leased planes and a dream. That's incredible. He smiled. It wasn't easy. I faced a lot of people who assumed I didn't belong in certain rooms or certain seats. Amanda winced at the subtle echo of her own words. I'm so sorry. She said again, her voice barely above a whisper. David's tone softened. Amanda, if it makes you feel any better, I wasn't offended. I've learned to choose peace over pride. She turned toward him, genuinely curious. How do you do that? He looked out the window, watching the clouds drift below, by remembering where I came from. I grew up in a small neighborhood in Atlanta. My mom used to clean airplanes, the same kind I own now. She taught me that respect isn't about who you are, but how you treat people. Amanda's throat tightened. That's beautiful. He smiled again. She would have liked you, though. You've got fire. Amanda laughed nervously. Not the good kind, I think. Maybe not at first, he said gently. But sometimes fire can be refined. For the rest of the flight, their conversation drifted from business to travel to family. Amanda confessed she'd been under enormous pressure at work. A major client was threatening to pull their account, and she'd been living on coffee and anxiety for weeks. David listened quietly, occasionally offering a thoughtful nod or a word of encouragement. You ever just feel like you're running but not getting anywhere? She asked. He looked at her all the time. That's why I started flying in the first place, to remind myself that altitude requires patience. You can't rush takeoff. Amanda smiled faintly. You're full of wisdom, Mr. Carter. Just experience, he replied, and a few crash landings. They both laughed softly. When the plane finally descended into New York, the sunset painted the sky in gold and violet. As the wheels touched down, Amanda turned to him. Mr. Carter, she said quietly, thank you for being kind when I didn't deserve it. He looked at her kindly. That's exactly when kindness matters most. She blinked away sudden tears. As the passengers began to deplane, Amanda stood up hesitating. Then she offered her hand. I hope someday I can repay the grace you showed me. David shook her hand warmly. Just pass it on. That's all the repayment I need. As Amanda stepped into the jet bridge, she glanced back one last time. David was still seated, speaking with Maria, thanking her, asking about her family, complimenting her professionalism. And that's when it hit Amanda. He wasn't just the CEO of Falcon Air. He was the kind of leader and human being the world desperately needed more of.